When I was growing up in the USSR, going to school and university, Joseph Stalin was widely and unambiguously considered pure evil. Not one person could compare to Stalin back in the USSR. Actually, no one could come even close. The man created one of the darkest pages in my country's history. Back then, Stalin was kind of the guy, when you heard his name, you would spit on the ground out of disgust. We actually studied his crimes in high school, believe it or not. We had dedicated classes. Our class was called the personality cult. The personality cult of Stalin, the period from early 30s to 1953. And back in those days, Stalin was considered everything. People worshipped Stalin. They sacrificed their lives and lives of their children for him in the name of Stalin. The only way I can explain behavior of Soviet people back then was, clouding of their minds. Kind of see parallels to what is happening today in some ways, and I think that's going to be a further investigation in one of the later streams. But people back then honored Stalin in any possible way, and that included naming cities, entire cities, in the name of Stalin. That's right, cities, believe it or not. There were quite a few cities in the USSR named after Stalin. For example, modern-day Dushanbe, Stalinabad. Novokuznetsk, today Novokuznetsk, Stalinsk. Novomoskovsk today, back then Stalingorsk. Tskhinvali today, Staliniri. That's crazy, but you know what? Wait. The USSR, that's just the USSR, quite a few cities named after Stalin, but not just in the USSR. People actually named cities, their cities, after Stalin in Europe. Yes, in Europe. Bulgarian Varna used to be named Stalin. Romanian Brasov used to be called Arashul Stalin. Albanian Kucheva used to be Stalin. Hungarian Dunajvaros, current Dunajvaros, used to be Stalinvaros. Polish Katowice was Stalingrad. And, oh God, Germany's Eisenhüttenstadt used to be Stalinstadt. And after that, many Russians wonder why the USSR isn't remembered well in the Eastern Europe. Well, you know what? Perhaps that's why. Perhaps because the Stalinbads were all over Eastern Europe, Today is this the first time I actually learned that European cities were named after Stalin for some time. You live, you learn. But the most famous city with Stalin's name, of course, there's no doubt, was Stalingrad. Modern-day Volgograd. It is well known in the world for the Battle of Stalingrad, one of the bloodiest and fiercest battles in World War II. The Red Army versus Wehrmacht. Quintessence of the fighting of the two armies and the two countries. Soon after death of Stalin, the truth came out. They started actually coming out right after the death at the end of 1953. So the truth started coming out about the personality cult, and all cities lost Stalin's name. Stalin part, thank God. Most Russians, except for the very few Stalinists, we call them the followers of Stalin, but they're just really a handful, not too many. Most Russians have been ashamed of the worshipping of Stalin in the past, and they felt pretty bad about that. My impression was that many Russians back in the day, back in the USSR when I was growing up, wanted to forget that dark page of the history, along with all those names. Stalinabads, Stalinogorsk, Stalingrads, etc. Well, until now. 2 days ago, Volgograd's city employees, employed by the Russian government, of course, unofficially returned Volgograd its previous name, Stalingrad. Yes, that is true. They replaced city limit signs. You used to say Volgograd when you enter the city. You know, the kind of city limit signs that are all over the world. City's name over white background, you know. Usually once you enter the city, you drop your speed because speed limit changes. So they replaced those city limit signs saying Volgograd with Stalingrad. One day before Vladimir Putin visited the city, well, was bound to visit the city, Stalingrad is back, and this time with a big bang. Howdy, howdy, everyone. My name is Konstantin. Welcome to Inside Russia, where I give you news updates on what I find important and what's happening in Russia, and that explains what's truly happening in my country. Usual Russia explained by the unusual Russian on this channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you will find what I'm about to say new, fresh, and interesting. Valuable, at least. And I would like to talk about Stalingrad, well, not Stalin, Stalingrad, and the role of the city in the history and the Stalingrad battle in the history of Russia, and of Vladimir Putin a little bit, and of Russia in general. Let's, without further ado, jump right into it. You know, when I talk about Volgograd changing its name to Stalingrad, some Russians would say, oh, you're exaggerating. Well, I can see them saying that. The official name has not been changed. The official name has not been changed. It's still Volgograd. It's Volgograd everywhere in the maps, etc. But I do not think I'm exaggerating, and this is why. There are two reasons. First, there have been talks in the Russian parliament, State Duma, about returning the old name of Volgograd to the city, Stalingrad. Very few folks took them seriously, you know, those sayings, but, you know, they took place recently, within the past few days. And the second reason, the city officials made the decision to replace official city limit signs without consulting local residents, without asking them, the voters and taxpayers. The proof is all over internet. You can just Google or search on YouTube, Stalingrad is back, or Stalingrad city limit signs. You'll see it with your own eyes. You know, Stalin's name is on our map, on the map of Russia. Again, our city again bears the name of Stalin, the guy responsible for the Red Terror, the bloodthirsty killer of millions of Russians, Ukrainians, Uzbeks, Chechens, Tatars, you name it, you know. I can't believe how grossly and horrendously the history keeps on repeating itself in Russia. I mean, what the heck is going on? This morning I was riding in a car with an Uzbek, a buddy of mine, and I told them the news. I said that they changed the names of Volgograd back into Stalingrad, and he did not believe me. He thought I was pulling his leg, joke, you know. I made him Google it. He saw it for his own eyes, with his own eyes. He got so upset. He started freaking out in the car. He said that he was about, well, he made a decision to denounce his Russian citizenship because of that. To denounce Russian citizenship. That's right. He has two passports, Uzbek and the Russian. Originally, he was born and raised in Uzbekistan, but then he gained Russian citizenship through, his tenure in Russia. He is about to give up his Russian citizenship because he said, that's it. That's enough. That's as low as it can get. Well, wait, my friend. I think the lowest it could get started happening last February, about 24th, last year. But anyway, so why is Stalingrad back? Perhaps even only temporary, but why? Well, because Vladimir Putin decided to pay Volgograd a visit. Now, was it his decision to replace the signs or not? I'm not sure. I don't, perhaps not. He didn't even know. Perhaps it's his supporters, members of his party or whatever. I don't know. But what I know is that his visit is very, very symbolic. This year, the media has been pumping our minds up and warming us up to the date, February 2nd. Before, in the previous years, this date was not, just another date, just another day in our lives. But this day, February 2nd in history, about 80 years ago exactly, was the end of Battle of Stalingrad. That lasted for about 200 days. And it was 80th anniversary, and the battle itself was a very tragic and very unfortunate event in the history of both Russia and Germany. Hundreds of thousands of killed and wounded people, both Russians and Germans. A personal fight between Hitler and Stalin. The city was completely razed. Completely. But World War II has many tragic battles and events. Moscow, Leningrad, Kursk, Rostov, Warsaw, Berlin, Kiev. The ones who celebrate the anniversaries, well, there's not much to celebrate really, it's the ones who remember the anniversaries, what happened in their cities, are the locals usually who were born and raised in the cities, the patriots of their cities. They just remember, they perhaps go to the graves of soldiers, puts flowers, and they never celebrate. Those are tragic, very tragic pages in the history of my country. And as we say, and Russia used to say, we must remember this so the history does not repeat itself. Well, we in Russia must have forgotten the history, so it's repeating itself all over again, only at a different angle. Anyway, on my memory, that anniversary of the end of Battle of Stalingrad went mostly unnoticed all years. And I mean, I've been around for quite a few years, quite a few decades. But not this year. Oh, no. The Vlad himself arrived. The security measures around Volgograd, the rumors have it, they're been unprecedented. But it's just, it's not the point. The Vlad himself came to Volgograd and gave the speech at a big concert. A concert? Oh, whatever, He made a speech, and the speech is very important. He made a speech aimed to all Russians, I guess, and not only Russians. And I'll let you judge for yourself because I'm going to quote the speech. I find it important. I find it pretty. It's like a showcase of what's happening today. So, without further ado, I will be quoting Vladimir Putin, and I will be putting my remarks. I hope you don't mind. So, let me quote the President of Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin. Dear friends, dear veterans, today we celebrate one of the most important dates in the history of our country and the whole world. Exactly 80 years ago, here on Stalingrad land, on the banks of the great Russian river Volga, the hated, cruel enemy was stopped and irrevocably reversed. The long, hard, fierce battle for Stalingrad ended. The battle was not just a battle for the city. The very existence of a tortured but not conquered country was at stake. The outcome of not only the Great Patriotic War, but also the entire Second World War, was determined. And everyone felt and realized, both in the trenches and in the rear, we, as has happened more than once in history, rallied in a decisive battle and won. Well, this is the first time I have ever heard an official or ever, anyone making a great distinguish. This is important. Between World War II and the Great Patriotic War. It's always been the same, It's always been, it's one event. It's just called differently. Sometimes we Russians call it World War II, and sometimes we call it the Great Patriotic War. But Vladimir Putin today had, made a distinguish. And I think this is important. I continue quoting. The Battle of Stalingrad rightfully went down in history as a fundamental turning point in the Great Patriotic War. Together with the defeat of the largest grouping of the Wehrmacht and its satellites, the will of the entire Hitler coalition was defeated. European vassals and henchmen of Nazi Germany. Do you see the parallels between today and back then in this speech? And there were a lot of them fighting in Stalingrad, the vassals of Nazi Germany, that European countries. Many of them were fighting at Stalingrad. Almost representatives of all European countries of conquered Europe began to frantically look for ways to escape, how to evade responsibility, and blame all the blame on the former of their masters. It became finally clear to everyone what the Soviet people knew from the beginning. The Nazis planned to destroy our country, Soviet Union. All their ideas of the world domination are doomed to failure, or were doomed to failure. Oi. This is hugely important. This is a very important speech. You see, he is making a reference to today. For the first time in my life, I ever heard anyone saying it's not only Nazis, but their vassals and henchmen. Not just that, but almost representatives of all European countries on conquered Europe. You see, it's always been Germans against the Russians, Germans against Nazis, against the Soviets. But now it's all of a sudden all Europeans against us. Just like today, isn't it? That's at least what they're saying today. It's the collective West. But wait until you hear later. So hugely important. He makes parallels. This is not just a speech to say, hey, we remember what happened 80 years ago. We don't want to repeat it ever and so forth. This is not just that. This speech has meaning. All of a sudden, Europe is bad. Europe full of henchmen, of vassals of Nazi Germany. Don't you think it's a little conditioning of people's minds? But moving on. Keep on quoting. For 200 days near Stalingrad, two armies fought to the death on their streets of the legendary city turned into ruins. And the victory was won by one that turned out to be strong in spirit. The fierce, sometimes beyond human capabilities, resistance of our fighters and commanders could be understood and explained only by their devotion to the motherland. A firm, absolute belief that the truth is on their side, the willingness to go to the end for the sake of motherland, for the sake of the truth. To do the impossible was and is in the blood, in the character of our multinational people. It was them who overthrew Nazism. Let me make a couple remarks. Interesting. What is motherland to me? What is motherland to me? I am Russian. I was born and raised in Russia. I still carry, but some of them have been dropped, carried Russian values. What is the motherland to me? I tried to put myself into the shoes of those soldiers fighting in the Battle of Stalingrad 80 years ago. And you know what? It's very clear. I don't have to go far to come up with the answer. My family, my land, my home. Three things. They make up my motherland. The country that, I was born in, I loved, I still love, partially confusing, but it's family, home, the land. People, families, just not just family, but the people, All of a sudden, in this text, I hear that people were fighting, fierce fighting beyond their capabilities was explained by their absolute belief that the truth is on our side. Okay, anyway, moving on. Keep on quoting. Stalingrad has forever become a symbol of the indestructibility of our people, the very power of life. This city, its surroundings, villages throughout the country were restored literally from scratch, because by February 1943 there was practically not a single tree, not a single whole building left there. And it is absolutely true. Vladimir Putin is being absolutely correct and truthful here. Stalingrad, Volgograd was razed. I've been to Volgograd many times, and there are monuments to that battle and to what happened to the city. And one of the cities, it's called Pavlov's city, the city of Pavlov. Pavlov was a commander. He was a war hero. The city, in the middle of a city, the apartment block, it's still there untouched as it was 80 years ago. So the Pavlov's house. So Vladimir Putin is hands down correct. Volgograd, back then Stalingrad, was razed. Just like Bakhmut now and Mariupol. The exceptional steadfastness and dedication of the defenders and residents of Stalingrad, both then and now amazed to the depth of the soul, evoke a feeling of the most sincere gratitude and respect. It is our moral duty, first of all, to the victorious soldiers, to the cherished ones, to cherish and preserve the memory of this in history, to pass it on to the next generations, not to allow anyone to belittle or distort the role of the Battle of Stalingrad and the victory over Nazism in the liberation of the whole world from this monstrous evil. Okay. Now it gets interesting. Now, unfortunately, we see that the ideology of Nazism, already in its modern disguise, modern manifestation again creates direct threats to our security of our country, and we are again and again forced to repel the aggression of the collective West. Vladimir Putin doesn't even mask his points at this point. He stops kind of like making metaphors and he starts speaking directly. The modern day Nazism of the collective West. You know, it's so convenient. Without one single proof of modern Nazism, without one single explanation of what modern Nazism is, what modern Nazism of the collective West is, just generalization. Oh, the modern day Nazism of collective West. Well, please give one explanation to me, one single explanation. What is the modern day Nazism in the collective West? Because of one simple reason. I have been to the West. I lived in the West. I traveled. I have friends. I have relatives. And I did not see one single case of Nazism anywhere outside Russia. No, not one, especially in Europe, especially in Germany. God forbid, Whew. One must be absolutely insane to say that Nazism, modern day Nazism, supported in Germany. Keep quoting. Incredibly, but a fact. We are again threatened by German Leopard tanks, on board of which are crosses. And they're going to fight Russia again on the land of Ukraine by the hands of Hitler's followers, by the hands of Bandera followers. Well, let me pause. Let me apprehend this, okay? We Russians, again, are threatened by German Leopard tanks. Well, we were threatened before. The Leopard tanks were one of the tools of battlegrounds back in World War II. And Leopard tanks actually, very effective tanks, they were. Are we again threatened by the German Leopard tanks? I don't feel threatened. I'm outside Russia, but when I was inside Russia, I didn't feel threatened. Please explain me how we feel threatened by German Leopard tanks. But it gets better. Then explain me this. Leopard tanks are carrying crosses, which I don't think that's true, because once they go to Ukraine, the crosses will be changed into Ukrainians' symbols, and they're not crosses. Okay? They're going to fight Russia again on the land of Ukraine. That phrase seems the most strange one out of this whole speech. How can anyone fight Russia again on the land of Ukraine? I mean, Russia is Russia, Ukraine is Ukraine. If someone wants to fight Russia, they come to Russia and roll their tanks, Leopard tanks, on Russian land. And then you can say, whoa, they threaten us. They attacked us. They invaded us. But how can they fight us on someone else's land? By the hands of Hitler's followers. Do you know any Hitler's followers, really? I haven't met one. If you know, please, tell me, where are they? Where to find them? I want to see them. I want to film them. I want to show entire world, because I don't like Hitler. He was not a nice guy. Do I have to make my point about Hitler? I think I am not the only one, and I think everyone feels this very same way about Hitler I do, okay? But in my life, I have not seen one supporter, one follower of Hitler. Well, show me one. I will freaking come and curse him or whatever, film and show the entire world, and this person is the Hitler's follower. But it's just but all of a sudden, the hands of Hitler's followers, the hands of Bandera followers, Well, Bandera is a very controversial figure, but that's Ukrainian guy, and then why don't we decide? Why don't we why do we have to interfere with the Ukrainians? If they want to worship Bandera, they worship Bandera. They want to worship, I don't know, Taras Shevchenko, they can worship. If they want to worship, who cares, that what they want to worship? It's sovereign country, What does Russia have to do who they worship? In all the years past the USSR, I did not feel one time that Ukraine threatened Russia by Hitler's followers, by Bandera's followers, And all of a sudden, we are threatened by modern-day Nazism. Anyway, moving on. We know that despite the efforts official, corrupt in nature, of propaganda by the Western elites unfriendly to us, we have many friends and all over the world, including on the American continent, in North America and in Europe. Interesting. Well, Vladimir Putin is the president of Russia. He must know more than I do. But the thing is, all I'm asking is, please, name 5 followers. There are many countries in the world, I think over 200 countries. Well, just name 5 of Russia's friends anywhere. Perhaps it's Venezuela. Oh, no. Venezuela sold you out, Vladimir. Venezuela is turning towards the United States. Certainly not a friend. But who is in North America, except for Mexico, the USA, Canada? Those are hardly friends of Russia. Venezuela? No. Colombia? Yeah, the small countries, the Caribbean, France, I haven't heard of that. Perhaps China? Oh, no. All they want is our oil and our resources. They want our land, but they hardly friend. Everyone understands that. Even a third grader understands that. India? India really cares about its own economic interests to buy Russia oil at a huge discount, but it's not a friend. Iran? Iran officially said that it's not going to consider the new territories parts of Russia. Is it a friend? It stopped selling Russia military stuff like weapons, rockets. Is it a friend? North Korea, as far as I heard, North Korea was also turning away Russia. It was afraid that friendship with Russia would torment its image, North Korea. And perhaps Taliban, well, they claim that Russia is a terrorist state. They made an official claim, so it's just so interesting for me. Perhaps I don't know. Perhaps, I don't know, Zanzibar or Bolivia or something like that. Just give us, please, 5 friends of Russia. In North America, in Europe, please do. Moving on. But those who drag European countries, including Germany, into a new war with Russia and even more responsibly declare it as a fate. Those who expect to win over Russia on the battlefield apparently do not understand that a modern war with Russia will be completely different for them. Now we're talking. We do not send our tanks to their borders. We have something to answer with, and the use of armored vehicles will not end the matter. Everyone should understand this. That's a direct threat. He kind of gives a hint that, hey, if you keep on pushing us, we have something bigger to come back with. The nuclear bombs. Dmitry Peskov, his press secretary, after the speech, of course, was asked about this, and then he said, well, that's not what he meant different, but that's direct threat, and that's not to the Russians. It's this aimed is not to Russian citizens, it's to the Western countries. The message is this: stop sending military help to Ukraine, or else. Else is the nuclear rockets, nuclear bombs. I don't personally believe that Russia will answer with nuclear bombs, because that's the end to everyone. I mean, who would want to die and then be responsible for billions of deaths? But the whole thing is just so just not good. Keep on quoting. For those who threaten us, the simple truth is apparent and apparently incomprehensible. All our people, all of us, grew up and absorbed the traditions of our people with our mother's milk. The generations of winners who created our country with their labor, sweat and blood, and handed it over to us as a legacy. Let me tell you. Let me just inhale a little bit. The generations of winners who created our country with their labor. Yes, the generations of people. I hardly call them winners, because they weren't winners in the USSR. People did create the country with their labor, and in many instances, it was forced labor. I was thinking over, analyzing these words of Vladimir Putin, and I thought, look, he likes the USSR. Perhaps he has a different picture of the USSR. Perhaps he thinks it was like a different country. Well, I know what it was. I heard it from my grandfathers, who, drank a lot of that good Soviet life. Perhaps Vladimir Putin, I heard that his grandfather was a cook to Lenin or something like that, Perhaps he had a different life. Perhaps he didn't see what I saw, what my generations of my ancestors saw. Perhaps he thinks of this nice picture in his head when he talks about the USSR, but because he's obviously talking about a different country. Not the country I know. That's not the USSR. That's not the country of winners, generations of winners. Oh, geez, give me a break. Created our country with their labor. Yeah, forced labor in Gulag. No kidding, my friend. Sweat and blood. Oh yes, plenty of blood. Plenty of freaking blood. Go to Kolyma and see how many people died there. See the road of the dead? Plenty of blood. Handed over us as a legacy. And look what we have done with it. I would be ashamed. I actually am ashamed. Keep on quoting. The steadfastness of the defenders of Stalingrad for the Russian army, for all of us, is the most important moral guideline, and our soldiers and officers are loyal to it. He must know better. The continuity of generations, values, traditions, all this is what distinguishes Russia, makes us strong and confident in ourselves, in our righteousness, and in our victory. Okay. Yeah. You know what? That really makes us strong and confident in ourselves. Come to Tashkent, Uzbekistan, and tell it to tens of thousands of people who are not feeling that confident in themselves and who are not feeling that confident in Russia. Go to Kazakhstan, where over a few hundred thousands of Russians fled to. Go to Dubai, full of Russians. Go to Thailand, Bali, Sri Lanka, with Russian colonies growing right now. Go to countries where Russians fled in September and October, fleeing mobilization, and tell them that. Tell them into their eyes how, confident and strong they are, and confident in themselves. Because you know what? We're not confident. We don't know what's going to happen. A lot of people are so our lives have been broken. Over 2 million people have left Russia just since September 21st. And 3 million Russians have left Russia since February 24th. That's unofficial statistics, but I trust that statistics. Don't tell them that Russia has such great values and that makes us strong and confident in ourselves. Don't tell us that, because we know it from the very, very first-hand experience. A lot of us cried. A lot of us felt absolutely depressed. A lot of us were shocked. And you telling us that, this makes us strong and confident in ourselves, values, traditions, righteousness in our victory. Okay. I keep on quoting. I sincerely congratulate those present here in this hall today, and he's addressing the veterans, all today's defenders of the motherland, all citizens of Russia, all compatriots abroad, on the 80th anniversary of the victory in the Battle of Stalingrad. Again, the question I keep asking again and again and again. Who are those people who die every single day right now in Ukraine are defending motherland from? The collective West, led by the neo-Nazis? Okay. Keep on quoting. Happy holiday to you. Happy celebration of the triumph of life and justice. I'm not sure if it's the right translation. I don't think he said happy holiday. It's not a holiday. It's anniversary. Happy anniversary. Thank you for your attention. That's Vladimir Putin's speech he made today on Thursday, February 2nd, 2023, in what I thought used to be Volgograd, but now it turns out to be Stalingrad back again. I want to ask you a question. Am I the only one seeing this? Am I the only one seeing this? Is this just me who thinks that the Russians are being conditioned and this is part of the conditioning? Is it only me that's seeing that this great patriotic war pops up here and there all over all the time again? I never heard of great patriotic war before last year, and now it's everywhere. Great patriotic war in the past. It's like they're making this name stick to us, Is this just me, or you kind of have a feeling that it's happening too? Great patriotic war. Gosh. You know what? The Great Patriotic War, another one. They might even call it a little differently, but the idea will be the same. Will be announced in 3 weeks on February. And the last week of February, I think, on the very first anniversary of the biggest tragedy that happened to Ukraine and to Russia in the last, 50 years, 60 years. The Great Patriotic War will be announced very, very soon. Because February in Russia, it turns out to be the month to escalate and shock citizens of Russia and neighboring countries and basically the entire world. And this has been my message for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for coming and giving me a chance. Thank you for listening and watching. I would like to hear your opinions as usual. I'd love to see the comments, feedback, questions. I will answer questions as much as I can. Thank you so much. Before I turn on the comments, I'm asking you two things. Please help me spread my message by making reposts on social media accounts, your social media accounts of my message. And the second, please join my Telegram group called Inside Konstantin's Russia, where I keep you updated on the things that are happening in the channel. Thank you so very much. Turning on the comments now. If you're not seeing them, please refresh your page and they should appear. Mods are usually, as usual, are in town. Mommy Lorna, Black Cat, Eric, Bob, Harry Potman. Thank you so much for coming. And the usual suspects, thank you. If you want me to notice your comment or question easier, please put it in caps and put inside Russia after that sign. So it kind of jumps right into my eyes in a large orange box. Thank you so very much. And folks, what do you think of my today's message? Lena P. Hello, everyone. Konstantin, I saw the speech on TV today. Does he believe what he says, or is this pure representation with messages in between? It all seemed to me so alternative reality. It's a tough question. I don't know. Either way, as crazy as it sounds, he might even believe that. Okay. But definitely is alternative reality. I can't argue with that. I see that Heather is here. Hello, Heather. Lando Plenty, my dear Maina. Howdy, howdy, brother. It's not just you. Great message. Oh, it's not just you. Okay. If it wasn't not for the West, Hitler might have won. It's hard to disagree with that because the West has supplied Russia with huge support, with huge help, you know. The Lend-Lease, that's something I learned in my late teens too. They didn't really talk about this in the USSR. Well, they downplayed it, I should say, you know. Jekyll N, as usual, shows up with support without message, but this message is great enough. Thank you so much, my friend. Thank you. I appreciate it. To Australia, with love. Darla Potichin, thank you so much. To Canada, with love. Thank you. No message, but the sticker. And I would say to you, Darla, you're number one. Thank you. Stefan, they were no Leopard tanks in World War II. Yes, they were. Leopard tanks, they were. I'm pretty sure they were. The Panther? Panthers, they definitely were. I'll double check on that, but I think they were. There you go. Panther. That's what I'm mistaking with. Leopard and Panther. All right. Tiger and Panther. Boy, did I see them. I made a video from one of the biggest military parks in the world, Moscow Victory Park. I went to there. I visited a couple times with Michael. Something that I'm not very proud of myself for right now, because all of a sudden I've become allergic to all the military things, planes and tanks, and I used to look at them and say, wow, what a marvel of engineering, technology, mechanics. But now I look at them and I go, this is a freaking killing machine, once you start seeing blood and people getting killed, and by the way, I have seen quite a few people have been killed around, like in my circle, people who I know, not of my relatives or friends, but you know, some people who went to go, like Michael attended kindergarten. Like one person was killed there. How do I say it right? Anyway, I know people who have been killed in Ukraine. Once you start seeing that and it kind of touches you, it's just, there was a good friend of mine in Ukraine, a very famous cardiac surgeon. He was, one of his friends, Ukrainian, was killed in Ukraine in this war. And I think I know of about 6 people who died, who were killed. Steve B, thank you so much for your support. No message, but this message is fairly powerful. John Wakamatsu from Los Angeles. German tanks invading Ukraine, and what about the Russian tanks fighting against Russia? They were Panther, Tiger, and Panzer tanks. Were German World War II tanks. That's what I thought. I thought that oh, okay. So that was not Leopard, but Panther. All right, that's what I'm, again, mistaken about. Sorry. Julie W., thank you so much. Lando Plenty has just given sponsorship to 5 people. Thank you so much. Theodore, Scotland, in the house. Malty Ducky from Germany. Buffalo Bob, Mr. Kaliskan, Chicago's in the house. Lisa Marshall, Roy Cousins, Joel Finkel. Does Putin know anything about Hitler-Stalin pact? Of course he does. All of us know. We studied it in school. Well, he's a former KGB agent. He studied at the highest ranking KGB school possible. He was an operative in the West. Well, not in the West, but in Germany. East Germany. So trust me, he's a very smart guy, because the stupid ones don't make it where he made it to. He probably knows more than we do, or at least used to know. Daniel from Germany. Another with a fudge message. Yes, Steven. Sorry about that. Petra Z, good Abend. And Amir has a question. What are the chances of Moscow being renamed Putingrad? I'd say 0. Lando Plenty, according to the U.S. intelligence, 128,000 of the first 150 men were killed in action. Putin using them as cannon fodder. The rumors, if I say that out loud in Russian, then that'll be a subject of criminal prosecution up to 15 years in prison for spreading fakes. So there is no official information, which is absolutely outrageous, because it's been going on for almost a year. And they gave us information on the fallen ones, the killed in action Russian soldiers, 3 times only. First week, on the 7th day, on the day 28, on the 29th of March, and on September 21st. That's it. On March 2nd, it was 500 people, I think. March 29th or 28th, it was around 3,500 people, or 3,900, something like that. And on September 21st, officially, from the mouth of Minister of Defense, around 5,500. So, we could only imagine. The truth will come out, though. The truth will come out. I guarantee you that. let me remind you that Russia went to Afghanistan for 10 years, 520 weeks, and lost 14,000 men who were killed in action there. Over 10 years. Um, 0002, thank you. Hello from Austria. Leopard tanks didn't get invented until 50s. I apologize. I mistook them with Panther tanks. One of Putin's many mistakes. Also, we have some of the neo-Nazis here. I thought that Leopards were also part of World War II. Also, we have some neo-Nazis here, but they have connections to Russia. Funny enough. What can I say? I don't know what to tell you. Just not easy to be Russian these days. Marsha Tucker, howdy. Spot on, but there will not be any Germans in those tanks. Wow. Marsha, that is so true. And the thing is, where are those tanks at? On what land? On Ukraine's land or on Russia's land? Plain and simple. Answer me this question. Putin said that people were defending their motherland. What are Ukrainians defending right now? Are they invading Russia? Are their tanks, Leopards, rolling over Russian soil? Just, perhaps I don't know. You tell me. Luke, howdy. That speech seems like a ramp up the total war. And that's exactly the point I was trying to make. If you didn't understand, I'm sorry, but that's what I was trying to make. Perhaps I should have been more clear on that. There are no parallels between Stalingrad and Ukraine, except for the maybe 1 million casualties in Ukraine one day as well. I hope not. I sure hope not. Do you think the people are supportive of war escalation? Look, you and Duke of Earl and Damian De Silva, you give me questions to think about. Are people supportive? Not one single person in the entire world in the right mind would support war. Yet again, let's go back to Stalin. I did not bring up Stalin for no reason today. The personality cult of Stalin. It was formed in the early 30s, and it ended in late 1953 when the communists, former deputies of Stalin, former supporters, started saying, "Oh, wait a second. We went overboard. There's a cult of Stalin's personality," and so forth. And people started waking up, and basically they woke up very fast. But the thing is, they were like, I can't even say brainwashed. It's like their reality was distorted. They loved Stalin. They adored him. It was like God to him. They named cities in his name. I see parallels of what is happening right now in Russia. And the thing is, to get out of that state, Russians did just like that. Boom, in a couple of years. And everyone was ashamed. Everyone was looking back saying, "Oh my God, the cult of Stalin's personality." It was a big thing. And this is kind of what's happening right now. But it's not cult of Putin's personality. It's actually quite a few people don't like Putin, He nearly drew is not such support as Stalin did. But they start falling for this war and then support, "Oh, let's go back to the old ways. Yes, we're surrounded by the enemies." It almost seems like something changed inside their skulls, So they're not supportive of war, but their reality is distorted. I think many really truly believe that there are enemies all around, enemies at the doors, and then the enemies want to destroy Russia. Ooh, thank you for your support and thanks for the question. Chile, Pulaski, Virginia. Thank you, Terry, coming back. Alim, howdy. Pacific Beach. Clearly, this is Charlie B. Howdy. Terry, it was obvious for Russian audience. I'm not sure what. Matt's fan, I guess in Eastern Europe, good neighbors build high fences. Yep, I guess so too. And then after that, Russians say, well, why is that so? KG1, thank you for your support. How were your family and friends feeling about annexation of Crimea in 2014? Not as we should have been feeling. To me, Crimea is very personal because my father was born and raised in Crimea, and I still have close family living there. To me, Crimea was the place I used to go with my parents, and I kept on going when it became Russia. My family attitude was different. Some welcomed Crimea into Russia, some didn't. But the ones who didn't were a minority. Again, because my dad's family still lives there, they didn't have anything to say bad about, they didn't care much, basically. It was bloodless, and a lot of Russians, I'm talking about my family. Let me tell you this. I should have been, myself, much more vocal and much more knowledgeable about what was going on. Because back then, in 2014, the foundation for 2022 was laid out. So that's basically the answer to your question. Black Cat, how's mom, sir? Mom got a brand new iPhone today. She's absolutely thrilled and happy watching YouTube, this stream on her new telephone right now with a large screen. Nice. Lando Plenty, thank you. North Korea is in talks with Belarus trying to cut ties with Russia. There are rumors about that. I'm not sure whether it's true or not, but we shall see soon. Everything will become crystal clear soon. Within 2023. I am pretty sure of that. Ogi1, Inside Russia, haven't been able to catch live stream in a while. Other things we in the West can do to help the show. Russian people that our fight is against Putin and not them. That is quite a question. More and more often, in the comments, people say, well, Konstantin, that was a great message. We liked it, but please somehow make it so Russians see your messages too. I don't really feel that important that Russians see my messages. It would be if Russians didn't have any access to any news out there. But let me tell you, every single Russian has access to YouTube. And YouTube is uncensored in terms of what's going on in Ukraine, what's going on in Russia. Any Russian can go on the Ukrainian YouTube channel, watch what's happening on the side of Ukrainians. There are tons of, you see, what happened over the past year, all independent media outlets, and they were mostly on internet, they shut down in Russia. But they did not die. They did not close down entirely. They moved to outside Russia. All the reporters, more or less independent, they moved outside Russia and they're still there. They still producing news for Russians. And Russians can see them because they have internet, they have YouTube, they have Facebook, they have everything. Professional reporters doing great reporting for the Russians, telling them the truth. I would be competing with these guys for Russians' attention, and I am far less professional than they are. They're just great. So I don't feel like Russians need my stuff. They already have everything they need to know. And what can you do to help show Russian people that your fight is against Putin and not them? I don't know. I do not honestly know. Even if they hear this, the ones who support the war, they would not believe you, okay? Then you would not convince them. The only way for a Russian person, to really like the supporter of war, to wake up and open his or her own eyes, would be to travel to the West and see how many Nazis there are. None. How many people want to destroy Russia? Well, none. At least there were none in the past. How many people care about what's happening in Russia? Close to none, And then they just, if they have something left inside their heads, they would turn on the brains and say, wait a second. Kind of like two different pictures. What we're seeing there and what we're seeing right now with our own eyes. My points of view on many things have been formed on the basis that I have seen things with my own eyes. You cannot brainwash me, okay? If you tell me that the palm trees grow in Maine, I will laugh and I'll say, you know what? That's BS, because I lived for 9 years in Maine. I know what exactly. The pine trees grow there, but not palm trees. But then people who never been to Maine, who never heard of the state, they might believe it, say, oh, okay, So this kind of stuff, this can change Russians' minds. I don't know what anything else that can do. Lando Plenty, thank you again for sponsorship to 5 people. Thank you so much, my friend. Maxine Thibault. Thank you so much. There is no message, but this message is strong enough. 9 British pounds. Thank you so very much. Every single dollar, ruble, or pound counts these days. Appreciate the support very much. Miss me? Nobody wants to be patriotic or hero. Heroes die. Hard to disagree with you. DeVito, howdy. Woody Rester, howdy. Wanda, howdy. Lori Lane, that's a lot of Stalin cities. Yep, agreed. I couldn't believe that there were cities named after Stalin in Europe. Golden Griffon, Putin is trying to create his own universe. I think he has succeeded. Galaxy Rider, thank you so much for encouraging words. I appreciate it. By the way, if the user with a Rome name, something Rome, I don't notice your messages. I don't ignore you. Just replying to yesterday's message. New Faith, is that why so many Russians protest on German streets posting Z symbols? Look, I don't really understand what those people think. This seems like one of the most insane things to me. If they live in Germany, and if they support war, and if they post Z signs, perhaps they should get up, pack up, and leave for Russia, and not live in Germany anymore, and then live in Russia. Uh, it's like it reminds me of those Russian senators and government officials in Dubai who were just a few days ago celebrating, saying, oh, how great life in Dubai is and how was successful 2022 for them, and then how they like living in Dubai. And, they work and make their money in Russia. They steal Russians' money. They profiteer on the war, but they live in Dubai. Their kids go to school in Dubai, and then the whole 9 yards. Same thing with the Russians. They live in Germany, but they protest with letter Z's. Kick them out, will you? Ole Christensen, is there any place to watch translated speeches by Putin? I don't know. Well, I quoted his speech today. You can go and listen to me again. And trust me, I quoted word to word. Subminutish. Every Russian I talk to either does not want or need the message. Their opinion is pretty immovable every time. Thank you. You have not spoken to many Russians, okay? Some Russians are open to ideas, but you have a point. Quite a few of them are just like what you said. FS, howdy Constantine, do you think he's going to attack NATO? Saw the speech today and makes me very sad. Wish you the best. I'll be making streams before the 24th on what I think is going to happen next. He will not attack NATO. That's an insanity. Remember when the rockets hit Poland? I think 2 rockets and killed a Polish person. And NATO was all of a sudden on alert. Oh, you should have seen the Russians. How they started retracting. Oh, it wasn't us. It wasn't us, They were scared. Stinky substanceless. So I don't think he will attack NATO. But boy, he's going to attack Ukraine. He's gonna he needs some kind of a tiniest victory saying, hey, we came in, we fought Nazis and Collective West and we won by doing this. Okay, we took a Ukrainian city, another one or something like that. That's it, we're done. And then perhaps that's when they start negotiating. But he has nothing to show for this past 11 months, soon to be 12 months. He has nothing to show, okay? Deaths of Russian soldiers, Russian boys, mobilization, crash of Russian economy. That's pretty much it. Why are we in Ukraine? That's a question that starts sounding more and more in Russia. Why? Give us the reason. Nazis will take Nazis and shove it up your throats, show us the Nazis. So he needs to show something. And then he's preparing for the war, for the big one, the Great Patriotic War. Ferrari guy, Crimea was itself largely bloodless, but it didn't result in a bloodshed. Donbass conflict was set off right after Russian rocket landed, killing Ukrainian troops 2 days before shelling began. Well, Donbass conflict was a completely different thing from Crimea. It was completely differently executed. Okay, it was Igor Strelkov-Girkin, an FSB agent who was sent there to stir things up and start the war. He admitted in the interview that was him who started the whole Donbass thing, Donbass and Donetsk. Before, they were just 2 Ukrainian peaceful provinces, But Crimea is different because Crimea was taken over by Russian troops officially. If someone has been to Belarus for a while, you know that Belarus will throw Russia under the bus any day for China. China has iron grip on that country. You see that as soon as you arrive. Well, I haven't been to Belarus since 2010, I believe. I don't really know. I haven't heard of a Chinese grip. I mean, I didn't see it with my own eyes, but I know that tons of companies competed with us. We wanted to build power plants in Belarus over the past 7 years. We have not been successful. Chinese come in with their money. They build everything there. The Belarusian president is in cahoots with Chinese, that's for sure. He gladly takes their money. That drives Putin crazy because Putin thinks that Belarus is his, his control. And anyway. Max Mueller, will Russia ever recover financially from all companies leaving the country? What will the economy look like after the war? Well, I've been talking about economy constantly for the past months. It will not recover soon. It's gonna take decades to recover. The Western companies left, they took their business with them, they took their jobs, and most importantly, they took capital and technologies. Russia is really struggling right now. As it turns out, nothing can be manufactured in Russia. Nothing. It's just so ridiculous now. They're trying to announce all these programs. Let's replace all imports with our own stuff, but they can't because we simply have very little industry. We have great extracting industry. We know how to extract oil real well. We know how to extract natural gas, metals, how to ore to make it metals, copper, nickel, and so forth. But we can't do anything else. We can't make our cars. You know that Russian car industry is dominated by the Chinese now. There's one manufacturer left, that's Zhiguli, Lada, old Soviet brand company, and they're not producing any because they don't have any parts. Turns out that they imported a great deal of Western parts to manufacture the cars with, and only Chinese, they bring their cars right now already manufactured, assembled, and sell them, in Russia as Russian brands. So, economy Russia will not die, that's for sure. But living standard is going to be so low. I forecast early 90s. We had it very tough financially. Very, very tough. And that's what's going to return to, early 90s. And it didn't have to go that way. Russia is so rich in resources. All Russians could have benefited greatly, but thanks for your support. And Magda, but Lavrov said today Moldova is the next and also talk much about invade Kazakhstan. I have not heard about invading Kazakhstan, to be honest with you, but Moldova is definitely next, and I will make stream perhaps tomorrow about that. Who is next or something like that. Anyway, thank you for your help and the question. Ex-Flying Tiger from Lake Shasta, who gave Russia $80 billion in war aid during World War II? The American Nazis? I know. The American Nazis, the collective West, No need to answer that rhetorical question. Lando Plenty, thank you so much. Thank you. And Damien with another question. Welcome back. Thank you for your support and excellent questions. Is Russia between a rock and a hard place with a massive offensive? If he goes now, his tanks and trucks sink in general mud. If he waits, Ukraine will have all it needs and the means to expel the Russians. It's not a question this time, it's kind of a statement, and I completely agree with you. I call it Zugzwang. No matter what he does now, will place him into a worse position. I think that if he starts the Great Patriotic War and a Great Offensive on February 24th, he's facing the general mud, just like you said. He will get stuck. That's definitely help to Ukrainians. And every single day, Ukrainian army is getting more stuff and it's getting more powerful. So if he waits too long, there are two forces. Outside force, Ukrainian army, that's pushing and it's becoming more powerful. The inside force, the growing frustration with the situation among people, because there is frustration, and the second, worsening economy. The worse economy is, the weaker his positions become. Not just his, but the government's positions. So definitely between a rock and a hard place. Zugzwang. Vlad, 79. I'm an ethnic German who moved from USSR to Germany in 91. You won't believe how many of those people like me support Putin. What? If I could decide, I would kick all of them out, just like you said. But wait, it doesn't make any sense. Why do they support Putin? They don't like it in Germany so much. They don't like Germans. They don't. Just, I don't understand. The hell. Why do they put up with Germany then if they're such Putin supporters? Why don't they just go and live in Moscow? Where Putin rules, and sets the rules and everything. So they're enjoying the Ordnung, Deutsche Ordnung, and, the country with rules and everything, and the society, but they support, in Russia they say that the best way to love your country is from a distance. That's probably about them. Lando Plenty has given another gift of sponsorship to 5 people. Thank you. Thank you so much. From me and from 5 people. By the way, Saturday is coming up. Day after tomorrow, it means there will be a private stream for sponsors and patrons only. Different kind of stream, more personal details, more relaxed, fewer people. I'm just talking about the questions that the supporters ask and, general conversations and so forth. Fact checker. Are we all happy to not be living in Russia right now? Are we? Fact checker. I'm not sure. Are you talking about yourself or about me? Well, I'm not happy. I'm far from happy. If you think I'm happy about not living in Russia, you are mistaken. Because I said many times that leaving Russia and moving someplace, being forced to do that, would be biggest tragedy of my life. And I consider it a tragedy still. I'm not happy. Far from it. I'm depressed and I'm feeling bad. Am I glad I'm not in Russia? Yes, I am. Because 2 things. I don't want to get mobilized, given a gun, and given orders to kill Ukrainians. And if I don't kill Ukrainians, he'll probably our own shoot me. And then the second is it's really difficult to live in that situation mentally when there's a support for war going on, that go crazy. I waited until the very last moment. All of you know, I am being very honest with you, I waited and I escaped, in the very last minute. Coffee Cake, Russians have YouTube up as well. They do have YouTube. That's what I'm saying. They have YouTube. Everything can be found on YouTube. All Russian media sources, They have YouTube channels, big ones, millions of subscribers. Russians, if you want the news, go watch Серебряный дождь, go watch Medusa, go watch, I don't know, just like anything. Dirk's mama was accidentally... What? Dirk's mama was accidentally banned for not posting in English. Well, we're gonna unban her. Please give me her name. Diana Smith, though, yes, of course, this is conditioning. He has to make the point that this is all about defending the motherland. And also an opportunity to dish out threats to the rest of the world. You know what? I understand that, but I don't understand this. There's a hungry person, okay? And you make an appeal of. And a hungry person comes to you, and you gave him 3 pieces of rice, tiny, tiny, tiny ones, and you say, well, eat. And he eats 3 tiny pieces, and he's still hungry. He hasn't had enough. And all of a sudden, you tell him, hey, you know what? You've had enough. You're not hungry anymore. We just gave you a huge portion of rice, huge portion of pilaf. You know, aren't you fed? And the person starts believing and said, oh, you know what? I am fed. It's feeling hungry. But it's like, oh, yeah, they just gave me. They fed me. But in reality, they were given like 3 pieces of rice. This is what's happening. He clearly says one thing, another thing is happening, and everyone believes. Viking, I heard today that those with dual citizenship can be mobilized. Oh, of course, not only can be mobilized, they're made. They're mobilized. They're forced to mobilize because this is what happens. The Russian government came up with a brilliant idea. They say we mobilized 300-something thousand men over the past few months. Now we need more. But who we gonna mobilize right now? Mobilization is still going on. Don't be misunderstood. Don't be mistaken. So who will we mobilize next? The ones who will not talk much about it. Those are with debts, with alimony debts, who own child support. Those were with debts, with defaults to the bank loans. And those who gained Russian citizenship in 10 years, in the last 10 years, they must go. And if they don't get mobilized, we'll take their citizenship back. We'll strip them of citizenship. So lots of Uzbeks, lots of Tajiks, lots of people from Central Asian countries, they either go back home, come here to Uzbekistan and stay here, or they get mobilized. Okay, and from a Russian point of view, if you have Russian passport, no matter Russian citizenship, no matter how many more citizenships you have, you're a subject of mobilization, okay? They don't care if you're American or German or Uzbek or whatever. You're Russian, that's enough. Oberberg, please don't forget the subtitle later. Good night all. Well, I never do because it's automatically generated. I put, when I set up a stream, I say that it needs subtitles. Susie Myler, what is the current situation at the border? On the surface, everything seems all right, but there are over 8 million Russian men who have been banned forbidden to leave Russia. Basically, that is what's happening. You might be on that list. You might not be on that list. Okay. If you are served the document, повестка, then you're definitely on the list. And no matter how much you try to hide, they won't leave you. They won't let you leave the Russia because they have the super database, the unified database of all people who are subjects of mobilization. So that's what's happening. Ivan, howdy. Hope you're well. Question: will this war only end with Putin losing power, or is there a scenario in your mind where he retains control? Is Putin better or worse than a nationalist successor? Good question. Good question. There's actually a couple questions. Will this war only end with Putin losing power, or is there a scenario in your mind where he retains control? My bet that he will, well, next year, 2024, Russia will meet with a new president or a new leader or a new person in charge somehow. I don't believe that Putin will last that long for one simple reason. The situation is getting worse and he isn't soon swung. I don't possibly see what he can do to actually win. What I am seeing in the past months is chaotic attempts to hang on to power for as long as possible. But he's mortal, definitely. He is human. He's not God, and he will lose the power. I think that the war will end with Putin losing power, because what I think will happen is they will start blaming Putin for everything. They will be saying, oh, I didn't know. Oh, we knew that there weren't any Nazis in Ukraine. We just couldn't say because we were under constant threat. And his inner circle would say something like, you know what, please forgive us, but he took hostages of our kids, or something like that. We couldn't say that. He threatened our lives. And there's gonna be a blame game like you've never seen before. That's a very possible scenario. And they will be making deal with the West. Please allow us to return. Allow us to, get our money back or get our property back. We'll do anything for, things like that. So that is a very possible scenario. There's another scenario that a nationalist successor comes. But the thing is, who? Give me one name. What Putin has done very, very effectively in the last 15 years, he has eliminated all political competition. There's not one single person of the magnitude of a leadership that could actually lead the country. None. Navalny, why is he being pressured so much right now? Why is he being basically destroyed physically? Because he's the person who kind of consolidated a part of Russian society. And he's a possible threat to Putin and the regime. And that's why Navalny is in prison. That's why Navalny is not doing well physically. And they trying to either kill him or get him into a position where he's such poor health, he won't be able to do anything in the future. Besides Navalny, there's no one else. No successor. Time's up. Okay. Robert Pankowski, none. I'm telling you, none of those. Those are, well, I'm not going to comment to these people. Terry, I think something's going to break soon. Me too. All right, my friends, thank you so much for watching, giving me another chance. There will be another stream tomorrow. I'm thinking right now I have a couple ideas, but most likely what I'm going to do is research who's going to be next or who Russia wants to be next. And I think that's going to be Moldova, because Lavrov made a very ambiguous statement today. He said that Moldova is being made next Ukraine, anti-Russian country, okay? And all Moldovians are guilty is that they want to join Europe and possibly NATO, and that's it. I mean, they don't look into Russia, but they look into the other side, Europe. And boy, they don't like that. Question is Russia capable right now? All right. Let's finish the stream up today. Thank you again for coming. Thank you for giving me a chance. Thank you. You're absolutely great. Let's finish this stream with a prayer. If you're religious, if you're not religious, just pray along with me, please. Do me a favor and send people good wishes. Thank you so very much. Let's do it. Dear Lord Jesus Christ, thank you so much for giving us this day. Thank you for putting food on our tables and roofs over our heads. Thank you for surrounding us with people who we love and who love us. Please help our children, keep them safe and healthy, and give us wisdom and knowledge to raise them the way that they become good people when they grow up, and they will make this world a better place. We'll never fight in wars with each other. Please help Ukraine, stop the bloodshed in Ukraine, reach out and touch the hearts, souls, minds, open eyes of people who can responsible and can make this decision to stop the bloodshed. Wake them up. Wake them up from the lethargic sleep they've been in, so they see what they've done and get terrified and stop the bloodshed. Please send angel to every single person in Ukraine, so everyone is kept out of harm's way and not one single drop of blood shed anymore. Please. Reach out to those Ukrainians who need help, who have been affected by this terrible tragedy, and help them. Answer their prayers and make their wishes come true, please. Help my country. Send your strongest angels with sharpest swords, led by Saint Michael, to fight the demons, to get rid of the demons that have hijacked my country. Make those angels run my country and make it right, peaceful, and good. Please send help to all people who are traveling. Give them safe travels. Those people who are seeking for asylum, leaving the unfairness of their countries behind and running away from threats, especially those who with families and children. Please send good people and help their way. Send angels to them. Please bless those who are helping Ukraine and Ukrainians, opening their hearts, wallets, doors, praying for them. Please bless those. Help the hungry, the homeless, the sick, who are not doing well, are not feeling well, the jobless, the ones who are struggling with their faith. Please send them help, surround them with your love, and send warmth into their hearts so they feel better. Please give us all peaceful skies. As it turns out to be, that's one of the most necessary and important things in our lives that we usually take for granted. But once the peaceful skies disappear, we start understanding what the peaceful sky really means to us. So please send us all peaceful skies. I would like to reach out and ask for all pregnant women who are making a decision to keep their babies or not. Please reach out and talk to them so they make the right choice. And I would like to thank you for our community. Thank you so much for bringing us all together, for forming this community, and so we formed it and maintain it, and it's such a great place. And thank you for giving us chance to pray together. Please help everyone who is praying along with me or just simply watching us praying. I would like to ask a few people who need your help. Please send your love to each one of them. Send your miracles, show your might, mercy. Please help them. They are Wayne, Shirley, Debbie, Jan Allen, Finola, Lars Henrik and Lars Henrik's mother, the Highwayman, Essie from the Scottish Isles, Outlander and family, Choriz and the family, Lars, Susan Marshall, Beulah, Bas Simon, Janice Burgess, Alvin's mother, Teresa D., Marsha Tucker, Garcia Castellanos, Terry Carter, Joe McMahon, Meta Spencer, Diana and her family, Bree's friends, Pamela J., who's going to eye surgery. Please send your angels and help out with her eyes, please. Daniel 9, Yelena, Natasha, Jake, Michael, Ola, Dasha, Sky, Bonnie, Galina, Igor, Karen from Maine, Jamie, Michael Milkevitz, Marlene, Paul Binns, Richard, Mallory M., Dirk Misler, James Rhodes, Terry, Brittany S., Lars Henrik, Hannah and her children, Richard Burris, Angelica at Life, and Scan's family, grandson, Grace, Barb, Randolph, Nelly, Arkady, Yuri in Mykolaiv, Harry's family, Merlinda's niece, Ian James, Doug, Rafaela from Anna, Priscilla, Michelin, King Nero, Gaby Hyman, Donald, Deborah, Lisa's son, Jade, Allison, Dave Moyers, Terry Scrugg, Janice Burgess, Maureen M. and her sister, Mr. Hansen, Heidi, Bob, Tony, Kayleen, Rob, Umil, Jennifer, Matt, Ashley and family, Mr. Dean Spooner and the church, Our Savior Lutheran Church, Lisa Cumrian, Jacob, Adam Oliver, Treasure, Kyle's wife, Grace Philosophy, Maggie Carmen's sister, Vladislav and his father Sergey, Susie Myler, Gina Wayfarer, EMS paramedic, Liz, Lori Miles' husband, Sherry, Layla, Philip's mother, and I'd like to ask for special children. They're Cadence, Maverick, Sebastian, Coulter, Theo, Maudie, Ansley, and 2-year-old niece of Karen Vasseur. They need your help. They need recovery. Please send help to them, show their miracles, and help their families. Thank you so very much. And I would like to ask for all children being affected in Ukraine and in Russia. Thank you so much, dear God, our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. My friends, thank you for coming. I think I found the source of my running nose towards the end of streams. That's Rooibos tea. I'm pretty sure of that. I don't know what the heck, but thank you so much for coming again. Thanks for giving me a chance. You are absolutely awesome and you all rock. I am so glad to be part of this community. Thank you. Before I go, Carthago delenda est.